Welcome to Package Your Genius. I'm your host, Amanda Miller Littlejohn. I'm a former print journalist turned PR and personal branding pro, and I am here to help high achievers like you bring your genius ideas to life. Whatever gift you have to give the world, I want to be a catalyst for your next genius move. If you're ready to stop overthinking it and start putting yourself out there, you're in the right place. Let's go. So I've been threatening to record this podcast for the last 2 weeks, I think. And I think it's ironic that the essential theme of the episode is that you don't need a perfect blueprint to lay the first stone. And that is a realization that I had several years ago, and I shared it on Instagram, but it's one of those timeless truths that keeps re-emerging and resurfacing ever so often, I guess by way of reminding even me that things don't have to be perfect. The plan doesn't have to be perfect for you to start acting. And in fact, so often just having like one or two steps of the plan is enough to get moving, and the rest of the steps that one should take will be revealed on the journey. So just to kind of illustrate where all of this is coming from in my personal life, or by way of my own personal example, I have been wanting to do some sort of year-end personal brand planning, event, retreat experience for the last few years. I actually have done several live events where I essentially hosted a group of women to look at the year that has just passed and then go into planning for the future year. So I did one in, I think it was 2014 and another one in 2015. And for whatever reason, I don't think I did 2016, and I definitely didn't do 17 or 18, but I missed those events. I missed kind of convening people and bringing people together. But most of all, I missed that shared group planning experience, because I absolutely love the practice of reflecting on the year that has passed and really crafting my vision for what I want the next year to mean for me. And honestly, it's something I've been doing since I was in middle school and high school. I remember over the Christmas break, I would go sit in our big front room, our living room of our home. And in the living room, there was no television. There was really no traffic. Nobody ever went in there. But that was where the Christmas tree was, and that was where the piano was. And I remember loving that room because it was so peaceful and so quiet. So I would get the little kitchen radio, unplug it and take it into the front living room, and I would plug it up and turn on my jazz with Bob Parlocha, and I would listen to jazz. I would sometimes make some coffee. I would sit and watch the tree all lit up and spend that week between Christmas and New Year's in a heavy reflection about the few months that had just passed, because, mind you, I was a student, so we just finished a semester. Also thinking about the year that had passed and what I had accomplished, what I had failed at, what I wanted to do differently, and who I wanted to be differently, and what changes I could make to really step into the person I wanted to be in the next year and moving forward. Now, I have no idea where that practice came from. I never saw anyone else do it. Nobody in my house was doing that. And I don't even remember if my friends were doing that, like on their own. And maybe we were talking about, well, what are your goals for next year? It was just something that I was called to do. I did journal a lot, but for some reason, just that week was always a time that I would take the time to reflect and think about what I wanted to do for the next year. So fast forward to now, having this business and doing personal branding and working with people through the academy. I'd been doing these planning events, live planning events, where I would rent out space in a hotel, I would order a hot meal, and I would do this reflection practice and then a goal setting and planning practice after that. And I think one of the reasons I stopped doing it was because to host something at a hotel is very expensive, and it creates a level of stress when you're planning and promoting, and just, the intention to help people plan and get clear and reflect is really pure. And it's something that I'm going to be doing anyway, right? So, hey, do you want to come with me and do it with me? But then when you factor in selling tickets and you've got this hotel you're on the hook for, and, oh, if you don't sell this many tickets, then you won't, make a profit. You'll only break even, or you'll end up owing money. Hotels can be a lot. And so I think that is what kept me from planning a live in-person planning event for the past few years, because it is something you have to start a few months ahead of time just to really get it right. So anyway, I had in my planner, in my Asana dashboard, that I wanted to do some sort of virtual planning retreat. And now I have to give a shout out to Radaya Rhodes and the ladies over at Evoke Life, because they had a half-day virtual intensive back in, I think it was the beginning of October. And it was coinciding with their Power Paradigm program, which is an amazing personal development program for high achieving, powerful women. So definitely check it out. And they're actually open for enrollment right now. It's called the Power Paradigm, and they're Evoke, EVOK. I think it's evokelife.com. But anyway, they had a virtual intensive back in October, and it was a half day, and it was really awesome because I didn't have to travel. I didn't have to get a hotel. I was able to block off my day and do this half day thing just for me. I made sure that I was going to be home alone so I wouldn't be interrupted. And it was really, really awesome. And so I thought, okay, maybe I could create something for my clients focused on the personal brand planning idea, right? So like maybe I can take the in-person hotel event that I have been doing all these years and create some sort of virtual experience that takes the place of that. So it's a little less pressure, a little less to manage and coordinate, and I simply have to let people know about it, obviously, and sell some spots in it, and then plan the content and deliver it. But like the managing the in-person experience and managing the hotel would be taken off the table. So I decided, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I really enjoyed the intensive that Evoke did. It really fit my personality, and I liked kind of being able to participate from my own space, the comfort of my own home. And I think that the people in my community would enjoy a similar type of thing. So I set out to plan this brand planning virtual event, and I even had my operations manager working on it. We had one of our designers building a web page for it, and all of these things were moving. And I realized I didn't want to do a virtual event. Like I didn't want to do a 1 to 2 day thing. Now, mind you, I'd already set the date. I already decided how it was going to be. And midstream, the web page, the half done web page is up. Like the designer has already started, so she'll still have to be paid for that. But I decided I don't want to do that. I don't want to do a half day or a weekend event because I was going to try to spread it over 2 days because there's a lot to cover. I realized that what would make the most sense for me to cover everything I wanted to cover over this planning process, because essentially I wanted to take the attendees through the process of planning what they wanted to create for their personal brand platform. So does that mean I'm writing a book, launching a podcast? And so taking them through a process of figuring out what thing makes the most sense for them to launch or create, not launch, I'm sorry. What makes the most sense for you to create right now for your brand? And then I wanted to help them plan their visibility. So that's a whole thing, right? Like if you're going to be doing speaking in media, how to figure out where you should be speaking, what media would make the most sense for you and what you have to offer. And then also the revenue. So what do you need to put in place? What do you need to create? What rates do you need to be charging to reach this specific income goal? So I said, okay, that's a lot. And I could cover it over 2 days, but I don't think the women in my community would be available over the weekend for like an entire 2 days. Like I just know the women in my community, and that's a lot to ask. And so even after I had hired the designer to do the web page and had started even planning my own kind of marketing strategy, backing up from the date of the event. And then I said, okay, I'm not doing it like that because that doesn't feel right. That doesn't make sense. I want to do something different. So remember, you don't have to have a perfect blueprint to lay the first stone. In the process of, planning the virtual event that was not to be, I had an aha moment that my people would probably be more likely to be available in the evenings, and we could spread out the content over the course of 3 sessions versus one weekend or one day. So I switched gears and pivoted pretty far into the process and decided to tell all of my Academy alum, so the Package Your Genius Academy alumni network essentially, because I thought this would make a perfect fit for them. And so in the process of changing the format of the event, I discovered a whole new format that works much better. And we actually started the intensive this past week. So we had our first session and it was amazing. And actually one of our intensive members she got ignited and inspired on the first session where we were talking about creating a new platform edition. So whether that's a book or a program or a course, like what could you add to your personal brand platform to help you spread your message more widely and grow your audience. So she has already decided to offer her own intensive and has sold a few spots in it. And we literally just had our first session 2 nights ago. So that's really gratifying to see the work already making a difference in people's lives. And in the process of getting ready to offer the intensive and deliver it, I decided to create a workbook, a planner for the intensive. Now, several years ago, I wrote on my vision board that I wanted to have a planner, a personal branding planner. So a planner that will help you outline the different things that you need to be doing any given week or month in order to move your personal brand forward. So, when you think about a standard planner, you have your to-do lists. But when you think about your personal brand, there's a whole other set of to-dos that need to happen if you want consistent visibility and to stay on the radar of your ideal customers and clients. So in the process of getting ready for this intensive that was not the same intensive that I initially set out to create, I realized that in making the workbook and planner for the intensive, I actually had the blueprint of the personal branding planner I always wanted to create. And so I'm so excited to share that the Brand with Purpose 12-month personal brand planner is now available on Amazon. Now, this is not a sales pitch for the planner. This is more of a sales pitch for imperfect action. How many of us are willing to take a first step or make a move when we don't have all of the details locked down? I will be the first to tell you, I've had some very beautiful plans, very detailed plans that covered every specific nugget and nuance of how I was going to be successful, followed those plans to a T, and they didn't work, right? And then I've had experiences where I just kind of put something out there and followed wherever it was leading me and was obedient to the directions that whatever this thing was kind of taking itself. And I say all that to say that you do not have to have a perfect plan of action in order to take your first step. And oftentimes, steps 2, 3, and 4 will be revealed once you have the courage and the will and the obedience to take step 1. Now, for me, I'd always wanted to do the intensive, or I'd wanted to do the weekend retreat for a few years. I decided to change it from in person to virtual. And then even in the planning of making that happen for this year, it changed from a weekend or a day-long virtual event to a series that's happening over the course of the month. And so I would never have gotten the clarity that that was the path I needed to take had I not been willing to step out and start actually pursuing this virtual event. And I feel like I took action in it, even though I didn't market or advertise a weekend or a day-long retreat. But I did take action by hiring the web designer to create the sales page. And my office manager and I were working on a lot of the details that didn't necessarily completely get thrown away because I'm able to use a lot of that planning for the intensive. But some of the things that we thought of and were preparing were rendered obsolete because of the format change. But I would not have gotten to the new format had I not been willing to at least take the first step towards the initial format that didn't end up happening. And the planner that I thought of doing years ago, that thing that's been on my vision board for so many years, would not have been born had I not felt like I needed to create something special for the attendees of the Workshop Now Intensive. So all of that to say, take imperfect action, but also sometimes there are residual effects of our actions that we don't even see coming. Sometimes when we have the courage to act and get into motion to allow ourselves to be used, things that we could have never imagined will start to come through. So kind of like I mentioned on the previous episode, on episode 145, about how when I went ahead and wrote my book, corporate opportunities started to find me. It's kind of like that. When I went ahead with this intensive, the pathway for the planner revealed itself. And not just the pathway to the planner, but the pathway for me to create the planner quickly, because the blueprint and the content was already there. I had already created it for the attendees of the workshop. And so it was a matter of packaging it in a way that would make sense for people to use over time, over a year. I want you to think about something that you've been procrastinating on, something that you have been planning and notating and writing your notes down and creating outlines and talking to your friends about and mulling over in your mind and waiting for the first step or waiting for the perfect packaging to get started with. I want you to take one step and just decide on a direction, because guess what? Plans can change. Just like the plans for this end of year event turned into something much more manageable and fun for me, at least in this moment, this intensive. You may start out thinking you're doing one thing, and then in the doing, you realize that you absolutely must take a different direction, but that direction would not have been clear had you not at least taken the first step into the direction of the thing that you originally wanted to do. So just decide on a path, pick a step to take, and take it. And guess what? Even if whatever it is you want to bring to life is not perfect out of the gate, sometimes just having a prototype, having a first draft, having a first version is what we need to be able to see how we can refine it. Speaking of second drafts, I am having a great time already delivering this intensive for our December cohort. But I realized that I have an opportunity to offer another one in January because the format is such that I'll have time to do that in January of 2020. So I didn't make a big announcement about this December planning intensive for a good reason, because it's intimate, because it's a small group, and we can only really create this environment for a small number of people to really do it right. But if you're interested in working alongside me and a small group of fellow high achievers in January to map out your plan for your platform, for your visibility, and for your revenue, I can let you know the details about our January cohort once they're available. So that's about all I have. Lots of announcements. So we got a January brand with purpose intensive coming up. So I would love to see you there if it resonates with you. And also the Brand with Purpose 12-month personal branding planner is now available on Amazon. So check that out. Share that with a friend. It makes an awesome Christmas gift or holiday gift. If you have a go-getter in your life that you want to surprise with something special, the planner is full color, so it is a little more premium than your standard paperback book, but it should be an awesome tool for you and for the people in your life who are ambitious and making plans to get speaking engagements and media exposure and really just kill it in 2020. So I hope you'll check it out. I will see you on the next episode. Bye.